It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. Across the web, on Fight Now TV, and on radio stations around the world. It's the only daily boxing talk radio show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C studio in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero. It's time for Talking Boxing with Billy C. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you listen, and hope you're doing all right. TGIF. Do you still say that? Today's show is being brought to you in part by USANA. If you're looking for a vitamin supplement company, check out USANA. And by the way, if you want to make some extra money, why don't you become a distributor for USANA products? All that information can be found by visiting our website, www.billycboxing.com, and clicking on the USANA banner. And make sure you tell them Billy C sent you when you become rich and famous with the distribution business you're going to form. Today's show is also being brought to you in part by my man. I'm donning his shirt, Sal Senecola, and Sal's neighborhood, Sal's Pizzeria, in St. Simon's Island. So check it out on the web at www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give them a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328, and tell them Billy C sent you. Order a pizza and tell them, hey, I was told if Billy C, you mentioned Billy C, you get a free cannoli with your order. So check that out. And today's show is being brought to you in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to the Baddest Man on the Planet. Before the end of the weekend, there will be a Buy It Now button right up on BillyCBoxing.com under the book club section, where you can see the cover of the Tom Molyneux book. And I guess, I just found out today that I guess the book will be available by the end of next week through Amazon. And I'll have the copies that people have ordered through us. The signed copies, we'll be getting them as well. And we'll be getting them out. So I wanted to thank everybody. So if you've been waiting for the last minute and you wanted to get a signed copy, drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. Or wait till you see the Buy It Now button under the book club at BillyCBoxing.com, and all of those will be able to get signed copies as well. But if you want to get it from Amazon, I think I'm going to put the link up. I think I'll put the link up to Amazon, and I think you can get it online at Barnes & Noble, or walk into the store and get it. So all of that stuff I'll have up on the website. So that'll be coming up over the next week. So I'm excited about that. Coming up in a little bit, we got basically a couple of things. I got some final thoughts on Kovalev Muhammad Ali, a fight that's scheduled for this weekend. And speaking of scheduled for this weekend, Bibat Shumanov and BJ Flores. I got some final quotes from those guys. Also, we got some fight results from London, which took place today. So I'll be talking about that. And today's question is, Floyd Mayweather may be the best of today, and whether you like him or not, you can't argue the fact that he's the best in his division today. I don't, pound for pound, yeah, he's the best of today. I don't like to go further than that, because I don't think he's anywhere near the best ever. But the truth of the matter is I think he's boring as hell. And my question to you is, do you like him because he's undefeated? Do you like him because he makes a lot of money? Do you like him for whatever other reason? But do you find his fights exciting? I mean, when I think of exciting fighters, right? And when I think of all-time great fighters, I mean, if I say a fighter, if I throw out a name, right? Sugar Ray Leonard, immediately Hagler comes in mind. Tommy Hearns comes to mind. Roberto Duran comes to mind. I mean, those were exciting fights. Sugar Ray Leonard was an exciting fighter. You mentioned Sugar Ray Robinson. Immediately, I think of Jake LaMotta. I think of Carmen Basilio. I even think of Joey Maxim, who he didn't even win against. You think of Duran. Immediately, Tommy Hearns, Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard. I'm sorry, not Hagler. Sugar Ray Leonard comes to mind. Even Iran Barkley. There's just so many fights that come to mind with these guys. I mean, when you think of Hagler, you think of Hearns, you think of Ali, you think of Frazier, Foreman, Sonny Liston. I mean, those are all exciting fights that pop into your mind. Bam. As soon as you mention a name, bam, you think of these fights, And now I say Floyd Mayweather. He was real good. Let's see. What exciting fight can I think of that Floyd was in? I can't think of any. I mean, no excitement with him comes to mind. Is he undefeated? Yeah. Does he win? Does he control the fights? Yeah. Is he the best in his division today? Yeah. Is he the number one pound for pound today? Yeah. Is he exciting? No effing way. That's my opinion. What's yours? The phone line is open. Remember, today you're driving the show. So I'm either going to be here for 2 hours or I'm going to be here for 10 minutes. As a matter of fact, commercial free today, and the phone line is open, 845-228-8710. As long as people are calling, I'll be talking. We got some emails I want to get out of the way. This first one's from Jesse. He says, hey, Billy C., I kind of agree with Fury. I kind of agree with Fury that Vladimir has a glass chin and he holds guys down and throws that left jab and straight right. Fury can capitalize on that. And then he's got a good chance. Yeah, he's got a good chance, but nothing for nothing. But Tyson Fury has been known to be a little fragile around the chin area himself. And, Klitschko punches pretty hard. He says, Billy, I heard that Triple G versus Lemieux are in talks for October. Your thoughts on the fight? Hey, Jesse, do you watch the show, man? We were talking about that yesterday. Yeah, I love the fight. He says Lemieux can match power, but move feet and head, but move his feet and head. Listen, Lemieux can match the power, but his defense sucks. And Triple G is going to cut the ring off and break him down. The big interest that I have in the fight is the simple fact that, will he test Triple G's chin? We've seen Triple G let fighters hit him, which I don't care who you are, you shouldn't do that. And I would think that he would not do that to David Lemieux. David Lemieux is a power puncher, but he's limited to that. I haven't seen him show me anything in terms of boxing skill or foot movement like Jesse suggests here, or ring generalship. He doesn't cut the ring off, but he's exciting. I like David Lemieux, but Triple G is a full package, man. And even if he fights Lemieux, I don't even think that's a big test for him. A big test is to gather up the rest of the middleweight belts, beat up on Andre Ward. And yes, I mean beat up on Andre Ward. I think he beats up Andre Ward. But anyway, thanks for the email, Jesse. Next one is from my man Bajoin. He says, if Pacquiao can fight Algerian Bam Bam, then Floyd can fight Berto. It's not like any of the current crop of fighters are going to beat him, so what's the big deal, especially if it's free on CBS? I think that's a BS comment. I really do. And the reason why is because, Manny Pacquiao has never said or even suggested that he's the best ever. As soon as you make that statement, You're the one that set the standard. Meaning Floyd, set the standard for himself. Why are people going to give him a hard time about Berto? Because Berto is a non-entity in the welterweight division. And I don't give a rat's ass if it's free on CBS. What the F difference does that make? The bottom line is I don't care if the fight was on a webcast. If it was on a stream, I don't care. The bottom line is when you make a statement that you're the best ever, you got to at least fight people that mean something. And I'm not saying that there's anyone else that could beat Floyd unless Floyd did what all great fighters do. And that's prove that they can fight above and beyond what people expect. People expect him to beat anybody in the welterweight division. But people don't expect him to beat a Triple G or an Andre Ward, for God's sakes. Something outrageous. If he did that, ladies and gentlemen, cements your legacy. When you do things like that, great fighters do great things. Floyd Mayweather has done a great job in maintaining an O. He's done a fantastic job, better than any other fighter in the history of the sport, in making money, in marketing himself. People know who he is. All those things. He's been a downright success in every aspect of the game, except for one. He hasn't done anything that took any type of risk. And, if you think, oh, that's good, he shouldn't take a risk, well, then guess what? You're missing the fucking point. All right? Because the point is that there's a lot of good fighters that could take and maneuver themselves if they had the right backing to an undefeated record and all of this thing. Whether they can get to 49-0, I don't know. But my point is that the great fighters have done great things. They've tried to do. Listen, most recently, whether you like what he's doing now or not, Roy Jones Jr. is a perfect example. He fought a heavyweight and won. And don't give me any shit about the fact that it was John Ruiz and he wasn't that good. John Ruiz happens to hold a stat that I don't think there's any other heavyweight in the last 40 years that can boast. He has fought in his last, I think, 20 fights, 15 of them have been against either champions, number one ranked contenders, or a former world champion, like as a title defense type of a thing. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive. Was he a boring fighter? Damn right. Even Floyd was more exciting than John Ruiz. But that's not the point. Roy Jones Jr. did something that great fighters do. And I'm just using him as an example. I'm not, he's not my favorite fighter or anything like that, but that's what great fighters do. They do things that you don't expect them to do. Sugar Ray Leonard, I was never a huge fan of him, but check it out. Here's a guy that retires, comes back. Who does he pick? Right off the bat, the baddest ass in the middleweight division, Marvin Hagler. That's who he picks. Great fighters do that kind of stuff. Great fighters do that kind of stuff. So that's my only hang up with Floyd. As far as I'm concerned, let's let him get his 49th win. Let's even let him get his 50th win, and then just shuffle him out of the business in terms of active. I'd love to see him do really well as a promoter. I really do. So I think that's BS. That whole line, give him a pass. Come on, he's had a pass for the last decade. Thanks for the email, Bjorn. Nothing personal. My man Joel says, "Hey Billy C, what 3 fights, signed or not, would you like to see? Looking forward by the end of this year." Joel says, "I'd have to say I'd like to see Cotto Canelo, Triple G versus a top guy at any weight between 154 and 168." And Klitschko versus Fury to finally see Fury get shut up. What 3 fights? Definitely Cotto Canelo. I too am looking forward to Tyson Fury and Vlad Klitschko. I'm also looking forward to Abner Mares and Leo Santa Cruz. I love that fight. Triple G against a major player like Andre Ward would be great. I'd like to see Deontay Wilder fight a real heavyweight. I like Deontay Wilder as a person and for what he stands for. But when he starts pounding his chest saying he's the best, I have to throw up. Blah. But anyway, he says, lastly, what's your thoughts on Shane Mosley's Jr. testing positive for being on Adderall when he didn't list it to the commission that he was prescribed it? Hopefully his suspension doesn't keep him gone too long. The last fight he had was on BKB, Big Knockout Boxing. So if he had tested positive after that fight, Las Vegas, where that fight was held, counts the Big Knockout Boxing as boxing. So that could be why he's suspended. My thoughts on Shane Mosley Jr. was I thought he looked impressive in BKB, but the other time I saw him, and I had only seen him the 2 times, I wasn't impressed. So I don't like any cheaters, no matter what, So thanks for the email, Joel. Phone lines are open. I got a couple of emails here, and if you guys are done, I'll be done. I'm cool with that. No commercials, man. So I'll be going until I hang up or disconnect. My man James Keister, that is, says, hey, Billy C, I just heard your bonus. Now, this is a premium podcast subscriber, right? I just heard your bonus Cooney interview. He can blame Don King all he wants, but let's call a spade a spade. Cooney's glove was practically magnetically attracted to Holmes's balls. If my memory serves me, he said he was 12 when he watched it. Even if he hadn't gone down, meaning Jerry Cooney, in the 13th, the frequency of low blows had destroyed him on the scorecards. Yeah, I remember watching that fight. I got to admit, I was never a Larry Holmes fan. And likewise with Lennox Lewis, because any fighter that complains they don't get enough credit, Paulie Malignaggi. I mean, all the crybabies that have to go and complain that they don't get enough credit, I have a hard time liking them. I like the guys, the blue-collar fighters, that bring the lunch pail to the gym and beat the shit out of everybody and then go home, And I just never liked complainers, and that's the way I always looked at Larry Holmes. So I was rooting for Cooney, but Larry Holmes was so much better than Cooney. And I agree with you, James. That fight, even if it went to 15 rounds, it wasn't going to Cooney, even though it started off a little close. He says, on a different note, am I one of the 8 who hasn't missed a challenge week? Now, in case you missed the show, the Billy C Challenge, everybody involved with the Billy C Challenge, thanks for the email, James. And yes, you are one of the 8. Everyone that's part of the challenge, so far this year, I noticed, as of last week anyway, I think a couple of people might have missed this week, but as of last week, 8 people that are part of the Billy C Challenge have not missed a week all year. So I decided that I want to reward people for not missing. So I'm going to give a bonus prize at the end of the year to everyone that's part of the Billy C Challenge that doesn't miss a week, for the whole time. So yes, James, you use one of them guys. So that's good stuff. Good stuff. I got one more email here, and this one's from my man Mike from Michigan. He says, hey, Billy C., like I said before, work is preventing me from participating in your show, but when I can, I do. Here's a thought on my lunch break. How the F does Paulie Malignaggi, who Mike cannot freaking stand, he says, get a shot at Danny Garcia? And how can Danny Garcia fight Paulie? People like this matchup. Paulie versus anybody is something I don't want to see. Paulie versus anybody is something I don't want to see because I can't stand him or the way he fights or how he absolutely has nothing behind his punches, yet he always is talking shit about everybody. Believe me, Manny has left my favorite fighters list, but I still think he blows Paulie out in about 7 brutal rounds, and that would make Paulie wish he'd never started fighting. That's off topic, but I don't see how this is a win-win for the fans. Who besides some metrosexual Italian dudes in New York wants to watch Paulie fight? Jab, 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 blah, blah, blah. And I hear Paulie say anything else about pitching, baseball, and how fighters change up speed and power. I'm just going to lose it. Max Kellerman said something intelligent when Lemieux fought Rosado, and Paulie grabbed what Max said and ran 5,000 miles with it. Every time he comments, it's about that. I don't get it, Billy C. Well, Mike, I agree with you. I don't like Paulie Malignaggi as a fighter. I like him as a ringside analyst, but I can't stand him as a fighter, and I can't stand his girly man looks with the, not his physical looks, but I mean the way he looks in the ring with, his hair and his color coordinated stuff. It irks me. However, I happen to like the fight. Me, personally. Maybe more people don't, but I like it. How does he get a shot at Danny Garcia? Well, Danny Garcia and his management, which is Al Heyman, just like Paulie Malignaggi, is trying to protect him and give him somewhat of an easy fight, a showcase fight. But Paulie Malignaggi is not an easy fight. When you think about Danny Garcia, who was brought up, a total blue chip fighter, brought up the right way, was on the undercard of all these big fight cards and everything else, and talented fighter, right? Well, not so much lately. And when you put him in against a guy that can move and box and stuff like Malignaggi, whether you like him or not, can do, it poses problems for Garcia. I like the matchup, personally. I don't like Paulie, but I like the matchup. So it's going to be interesting to see. Thanks for the emails, everyone. We got the phone line open, 845-228-8710. I may be packing it in quicker than I thought. I'll give you some fight results from London. Derek Chisora improved to 21-5 with 14 knockouts when he destroyed Bika Loeb Jandisi, who drops to 13-4. It was in the very first round, 29 seconds into that. We'll see what happens. What happens with him now. I think they just gave him a W, and who knows what's going to go on with Chisora. Also on that card, Billy Joe Saunders was put in with an easy layup to get him ready for his next fight. He improves to 22-0 with 12 knockouts when he stopped Johan Bloyer at 53 seconds of the fourth round. So that was the official stoppage. Saunders is fighting Andy Lee in September. So this was just a stay busy fight, but risky. When you're fighting for the world title in a couple of months and you fight a guy that's, even though he's 17-28, I mean, anything could happen. A headbutt, next thing you know, Saunders can't make it for September. It's kind of stupid. Also on that card, in the super welterweight division or junior middleweight division, depending upon which sanctioning body you're watching, Gary Corcoran improved to 13-0 with 6 knockouts when he won a 10-round decision over Rick Godding, who drops the first fight of his career. He's now 21-1. The way the judges scored it, 97-93, 99-91, and 99-92. And in the super bantamweight division, Louis Pettit improved to 17-1 with 7 knockouts when he stopped Antonio Horvatic in the 7th round. Horvatic drops to 7-19. Joining me right now, Dax Khan. What do you think? Which one are we going to talk about first? Well, Mayweather. Is he as boring as hell? Do you think he's as boring as hell like I do?
I thought that Mayweather, before he became a welterweight, was an exciting fighter.
I'm talking about the last decade.
The last decade,
Are you there, Dax?
Absolutely.
Oh, I lost you for a second. You said the last what?
No, the last decade, no, absolutely not.
Oh.
Has he been boring the last decade? Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah,
But,
you're right. You're right. I got to give him credit. When he first started out, he was a regular fighter, and for whatever reason, he switched gears. But it just irks me that there are people that claim he's the best ever. And I'm not going to argue that he's the best pound-for-pound fighter out there today, because he is. I mean, let's be real, he is. But he's not the best ever, and he's pretty damn boring to me.
Yeah, like I said, as when people like us, and when you're a true dedicated fan, you appreciate both sides. You appreciate the defensive and the offensive, and I appreciate his defensive skills. They're great. They're fabulous. I always like to see that a guy's not taking too much punishment in his career, because there's a long life after boxing. But like you, and like a lot of people, the I'm the best ever thing is just that drives me nuts. I was having a discussion the other day with some former fighters, and some dedicated fans who were are sold on this, or just talking about how great he is and he's the best ever. But they can't separate the best of this era and the best ever. So I sat there and I threw out this statistic to him. I said, there's a guy out there who used to fight. He was 173, 19-6. He lost once. He had 108 knockouts. His opponent's combined record when he faced him was 8,197 and 2,783. He fought 6 Hall of Famers. He fought when there was only 8 world champions in 8 divisions, no interim, no super. There was no WBO, there was just one world title, period. He had to actually leave a weight class because he could not get fights against guys that were future Hall of Famers, and he had to jump up a weight class. And not one person could name who that fighter was.
I'm trying to think. I was going to ask you who it is, but the guy that comes,
Sugar Ray Robinson.
I know that. I was just going to say the only guy that comes to mind because of jumping up because he couldn't get fights was Sugar Ray Robinson. But those numbers are astonishing that the combined records of all those fighters were that much. But that makes sense.
8,197 and 2,783, and they're sitting there comparing his last fight to Mayweather's last fight against Berto, how Robinson didn't go out against the absolute best available. And I'm saying to myself, look what the man already accomplished.
Yeah, but not only
he never
that,
had a layup.
Not only that, but he was in his 40s, number one, and number two, he wasn't a title holder or anything. He was winding down his career. He was doing a victory lap for all of his fans. He was already being praised at all these fight cards. People basically saying goodbye to him. So it was a totally different story. Yeah, if you would have given me a second, I would have guessed him first because he fought over a couple hundred fights. So I mean, and considering that all those guys fought so much. Yeah, that's a great stat. I love that. Why don't you email me that? That sounds like a future trivia question, man.
And then somebody brings up to me, another guy goes, "Oh, what about some of the quality of his opponents? He fought guys that were 7-11 and 3-9." And I'm sitting there looking. I says, "Well, if you know the sport and you've actually done your homework, you'd realize from the time he fought a guy that was 7-5, let's say, or 7-11, and then he went and fought a guy that was like 78-2. There was a 2-week break in between there.
Exactly.
And before he fought that 7-1 guy or 7-11 guy, he fought 2 weeks before that, and he defended his title. What are you talking about? He's not he's ducking or is avoiding. He's staying busy. Instead of sitting around and buying something, he's just in there. I got nothing else to do. Let me go kick somebody's ass.
Well, that's the argument all the time. That's what they say. Oh, well, Sugar Ray Robinson didn't fight all killers every fight, and he didn't. But you're 100% right. But he fought double-digit times a year. I mean, these fighters of today, we're jumping for joy if they fight 3 times in a year. The top guys are fighting twice a year, and if they fight 3 times, they're in line for a Fighter of the Year award. I mean, that's total BS, man. 3 times, and we got to say, if they fight 4 times, oh my God, he was so busy. I mean, give me a break.
sometimes those guys fought 3 times in a month.
No, I know. Back in the day, hey, there was guys that fought 2 fights in one night. There was guys that fought a fighter as he was named Joe Schmo one night and Vinny Gumbats the next night, and he fought. So come on. That's why they invented federal ID cards, to prevent that. But no, I agree with you. Final thoughts on the 2 big fights this weekend: Kovalev, Muhammadi, and Shumanov and Flores.
On the Muhammadi fight, that's one of the main reasons why I called in. Was I was looking at pictures from the final pressers and their meeting today. Muhammadi looks, as I stated yesterday, he's not a strong guy on the inside. He looks so tiny compared to Kovalev. I mean, this guy, and I'm not, downgrading the level of competition because, this is a ranked fighter, and he's actually taking some step-aside money, if I'm not mistaken, for Kovalev to face other guys. He's been, a mandatory for quite some time. He looks like he's 2 divisions smaller than Kovalev. This is a tiny guy here.
Yeah, when Kovalev, though, is a big guy. But Muhammadi seems like what makes me nervous about this fight even being close to being competitive is that Muhammadi has got that "I'm so happy to be here" look. You know what I mean? And usually that's already their victory, just being here.
Well, a few weeks ago, he had said in one of the press conferences when they asked him about his prediction for the fight. He basically said how you just described it. He's, somebody's going to win, either him or me, and he's a great champion. So, yeah, it's almost like I'm just happy to be here. But meanwhile, when Kovalev, you ask him, of course, he comes out and I'm going to kick his ass. I'm going to do my job. So the only thing that I think that Muhammadi, he just might not be the type of guy that talks a lot, and he's just coming in there to be all professional. The interesting thing here is the Abel Sanchez angle.
Yeah, well, Abel Sanchez, he's been so successful with Triple G and also another young fighter, but his success, I mean, he's, I don't know. I mean, what, you think he's going to help him?
No, I think, when you have bad blood like that, and Abel Sanchez and Kovalev, over the years, since they're split, they've said a lot of bad things about each other. There's, and it's not for the media, there's a deep dislike in there. And my question is this actually hurting Muhammadi? You get you're training a guy to fight against a guy that you have so much bad blood for. Now, you doing? Are you working for this guy and training him for the best, or are you sitting there, or are you putting your own personal feelings ahead of this? Are you sending this kid out there, just for the slaughter, more or less, just to make sure he makes a good showing and, possibly gives this guy a beating, win, lose, or draw? You're getting some of your frustration out through this fighter.
I've met Abel Sanchez a couple of times, and he's a really, really nice guy, and he's 100% professional. I hear what you're saying, but I would be shocked if Abel Sanchez did that. When he's sitting in a crowd, as people know who he is, and as respected as he is, he doesn't act it at all. He acts like he's just one of the guys. I mean, he's a really nice guy. I would be shocked if he was doing that, but it's a great point. It's like a father living through his kid, making him be the superstar of the baseball team, and because he wanted to be one. I hear you, man. It's good. What's your
right? And I like Abel. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of his, and he is a great trainer, and he's earned his respect. But there's a lot more on there where Kovalev. Okay, I left you because we had this bad blood. Look how much I have succeeded since you. This shows how much of a good trainer you weren't. And, and you got that aspect with Triple G where it's, with you or without you, I'm going to show that, Triple G is a great fighter, and not because of what you did, because of his natural ability. You got 2 guys trying to show each other up here for separate reasons, and somehow, this other guy gets caught in that mix, whether it's deliberate or not deliberate. And I'm not saying that, this is being said back and forth, but, when that tension is in the air and it's so thick, that could be extra pressure on a fighter where he feels kind of on the spot, so to speak, because it has been mentioned and it has been brought up so many times by the media, in articles, in interviews, and that's always been a question that's been proposed to both guys and to both trainers. Is that bad blood? And what are you going to do that Abel Sanchez has been able to do? Why were you more successful than Abel Sanchez with Kovalev? Do you think that, because Abel Sanchez is in your corner, he's going to have the right game plan and he's going to have Kovalev figured out if you just follow his game plan, and it's kind of the attention for some, not all media, but for some guys has strayed away from the fighters themselves, and it's kind of on the backstory, or as my man Coach inside the chat room is saying, a little bit of WWE style.
Yeah, well, that's Coach has been right. I mean, that's been seemingly what's happened to the sport of boxing lately, and every day it seems more and more like it. So you could be right, and Coach could be right, but.
And not even not even that saying that Kovalev is doing it, or John David Jackson, or Abel Sanchez, because they're not. But Muhammad is having and it could be. It's just, is it possible that he has this outside pressure being brought upon him? And of course, he doesn't want to be seen, because he's a professional fighter. He just doesn't want to be seen as another victim, so to speak.
Right. No, I hear you.
And later on, have that linger with him too. Show you, look, I told you. Abel Sanchez was no good for you. Abel Sanchez, it's just like a lot of drama there. Sometimes when you hear these interviews and you get on these conference calls, you're amazed at some of the questions that go on. It's like, they talk about everything else and they ask every question but about the fight.
What's your final thoughts on the Shumanev-Flores fight?
My predictions are the same, and speaking of guys that don't really sound all that confident, BJ Flores doesn't sound all that confident. He's giving Shumanev a lot of respect, more than I've ever heard him give any opponent in the past. Talking about how, Shumanev is a special fighter. Obviously, his level of, his ability level is top notch because they don't just give away world championships. You have to earn them. So, it's kind of in there, and, BJ Flores might be a little bit second-guessing himself because he's never been at this stage in his whole career. He's never been at this level, and Shumanov is a confident guy, and, he's a nice guy, he's a well-spoken guy, but, this is just all confidence for him. And BJ Flores, he's great behind the mic, he's well-spoken, he's used to being in the spotlight, but he's not used to having this type of pressure on him in the ring because this is a do-or-die fight for him, because if he loses this fight, BJ Flores will never get to the elite level. He will never get to the world title level again. He's always just going to be considered that B-level guy who's a great commentator.
Yeah, well, he's a great commentator. I think he's learned a little political correctness, so to speak, by giving his opponent some praise. Plus, he's involved with the whole picture. He's involved with the PBC series, with NBC, with Al Heyman. So he's trying to make this as big and as good as he can. But at the end of the day, when the bell rings, it's going to be his ability. And, whether he had boxing skill, because he does, whether he still has it, because he hasn't been active in his career, and I just never thought he was that good. My hang up with him had nothing to do with me thinking that he had no skill. My hang up with him inside the ring is he's one of these guys that say, I'm the best, I'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. I mean, he used to wear a T-shirt that said that. And the truth of the matter is, look at his resume. There's the truth of the matter. He's fought, one good guy, and he lost to Danny Green. And the fight against Darnell Wilson, I watched that fight 10 times, and every time I thought he lost, and they gave the decision to him. So I think he's a fraud inside the ring. But as far as a commentator, I think he's one of the best.
It's like you use like a Teddy Atlas type analogy with it. You can go out and buy yourself a Corvette, and you can drive it around your neighborhood. You can drive it up and down the freeway at 110 miles an hour, and you can look like a race car driver. You can handle them turns like a pro. You can impress everybody in the neighborhood, but then try and do that in the NASCAR, and you're going to realize you can't handle that car easily, and you're not a professional race car driver. And that's kind of what it is with BJ Flores. He looks great because of the level of competition that has allowed him to look great. He can drive. He does have that driving ability, but you know what? He's never been in that big race, and he's going to be in that big race tomorrow.
Yeah.
Against a guy who's been in that race before.
Yeah,
but better.
But Shumanov is a limited fighter. and it's actually a really good opportunity for Flores. But like you, I picked Shumanov. So any other? I was going to say any other final thoughts?
That's about it. The other ones. I was wrong yesterday, obviously, on our one prediction because I guess Derek Chisora won an early knockout. And tonight, and then Billy Joe Saunders and Andy Lee, looks like that one's coming up next, and that should be a good one if that happens. Well, weren't they already supposed to fight?
I thought that Billy Joe Saunders was supposed to fight one of those two fighters that. I always get him confused. I think he was supposed to fight one of those two fighters that ended up fighting each other. Kid Chocolate and Andy Lee. I'm pretty sure. But you know what? You know who would know? My man Captain Jack, who's in the chat room right now. He's over there. You know, he's over there on that side of the pond. You know, so.
Yeah, I thought that when Billy Joe Saunders and Chris Eubank Jr. fought, that was an elimination bout for a world title shot, and then you had the Lee Korobov or Lee Quillen, whichever that was. You know, off the top of my head, I can't figure out the exact time frame. But then, you know, the winner of Saunders and Eubank Jr. was supposed to fight whoever that champion was. And so that's why I always thought that Billy Joe Saunders was a mandatory for Andy Lee.
He is.
And maybe the way he's talking, he might be the mandatory.
He is. He's the mandatory for the next fight. The fight you're right, I must have misunderstood your question. Andy Lee is mandatory is Billy Joe Saunders. And you're right. His last fight, not the one today, but his last fight was an elimination to get that mandatory ranking. So, yeah, that's who Andy Lee is fighting next. And I think it's going to be over there. I think it's going to be, might even be in Ireland, that fight.
Anywhere over there, that's a big fight. You know, both guys have a huge fan following over there. I wish that they would broadcast a lot of those cards over there, you know, over here on our TV. It seems like when you talk on social media to people or people that live over there, they're able to get access, you know, to our cards easier than we're able to get access to their cards on TV or streams. And lately, it seems the action over there has really picked up, and they're putting on a lot of the better quality cards overall. You know, when you weigh it out, you know, you take 10 out of 10 cards, and, you know, probably a good 7 or better overseas than the ones over here. They're not as many showcased. You have a couple showcase undercard ones, but then you have really good main events.
Well, wait until Kelly Maloney gets back into the groove.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know what's going on there. You know, I just hope he doesn't get nasty.
It's she now. It's a she. It's going to be Kelly and Caitlin. They're going to be doing a reality show. It's going to be the Kelly and Caitlin show.
One is running away from the guys who are hitting on them at the bar and making advances, and the other one's trying to fight him in the alley.
Yeah,
got the track star and the boxing promoter.
Yeah, yeah. You were actually lost for words there for a second. I don't think I ever heard that. That was pretty good. That uncomfortable silence. That 3 seconds of silence was like, what?
I'm just trying to figure out, like, you know, them two sitting there in a room alone, and you're walking into some place, and you got Caitlyn Jenner and you got Kelly Maloney, and, you know, you're just looking at them walking by and going, wow, that's two ugly broads, and then you realize who they are, and I would just stand there, you know, do I say something? What do I not say? You know, Kelly, I did PR for you, you know, back in 2006, remember that? And Caitlyn, I used to eat breakfast and look at you on the back of the cereal box. I'm going to go drink elsewhere.
On the Wheaties box. You know, the funny thing is that there was an article, Kelly Maloney wrote that, Kate, I'm going to come over and date Caitlin. She looks like she's having so much fun over there in the U.S. And Maloney says, everyone here in England thinks I'm a pain in the you-know-what, you know, so... I don't know. I'd hate to see Caitlyn and Kelly end up as a couple. You know, that would be bizarre because they both say that they still like women, even though they're...
And don't curse me with that, because my wife, makes me endure these Kardashian shows, and that's what I really want to do. I want to be sitting on my couch one night while my wife is sitting there flicking it on, and I got to watch the Kardashian episode when Caitlyn Jenner and Kelly Maloney come in there holding hands. No.
Hey, listen. Put your foot down, man. You wear the pants and everything. You tell your wife that you want to watch what you want to watch. And if it means that you have to live in the basement from now on, well, then so be it, Dax. Stand up for yourself, damn it. Now you go back in there and you take care of business.
You know what? Why don't you take care of business at your house? And you know what? I'll sleep in the bed at my house. Thank you very much.
All right, my man.
Hey, yesterday, real quick, I'm rewatching the show yesterday. Was your dog down inside the studio?
Yeah, my man Namath was next to me. Why? Was he making cameos?
Yeah, you can see him every now and then. His head just tip onto the edge of the desk and that. And I'm going, is that the dog?
Well,
and
that's.
Then I was like, man, I don't know if it was. And then he did it again, and you couldn't really see his head. You just kind of seen his nose pushing papers or something like that.
Well, he was, he was fine. He wouldn't, for some reason, he wouldn't leave the studio yesterday. And so I said, all right, and he was being cool, and then all of a sudden, towards the end of the show, he starts ruffling through things. It was like he was playing with the computer. I don't know what he was doing, and I started getting pissed. When Duke used to hang out in here, he was a good boy, but I don't have my man Duke anymore.
Well, then another thing, my wife, she's into all those ghost shows, like that thing that John and those guys did on LDL TV. She loves those. And then she's sitting there looking at things. She's going, just see that? There's a ghost in Billy C's studio. There is no ghost. There is. Look, watch. There it is again. I'm like, there is no ghost.
Listen,
it's
when
the dog, I promise you.
When I was in Florida and I did one of those things, right? They took me on a ghost hunt, and he's got this machine, and it's basically they're going, oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that? They said Billy C, and I'm going, what? What are you talking about? And it's just, I don't know, man. To me, it didn't sound like anything, and people that like that, they whatever. Listen, I'm not going to say it's not true, but it certainly didn't sound it to me. But, hey, if people are into it, that's great.
Maybe if the ghost of Ray Robinson would get in the ring with Floyd, not only would he be TVE, but he'd be exciting as well.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But, hey, man, enjoy the fights, and I'll talk to you over the weekend.
All right, have a good night off.
All right, take care. That's Dax Khan, and he kept the ball rolling here. And speaking of ball rolling, the phone line is open, 845-228-8710. If you guys have some stuff you want to talk about, call. Otherwise, I'm going to pack it in, man. I'm starving, and I get to leave early today because I can. There's 2 days a week that I can do that, and today's one of them. The Kovalev and Muhammad Ali final press conference took place yesterday. Dax and I were just talking about how Muhammad Ali looked physically next to Kovalev, and didn't look too big. But here's what he had to say. Muhammad Ali said, "I'm very excited and happy. Thank you, Sergey Kovalev, main events in HBO. I've had hard work in my training camp, and I'm ready for this fight. I am very happy. I promise Saturday a good fight. I am ready. Thank you very much." Thank you very much. The thing is this, like I just said to Dax, he seems like he's happy to be here. It's like what happens to the Cuban fighters, right? They swim over here on a coconut raft. They however they get here, and they come from a scenario where they're told when to run, they're told when to work out, they're told when to spar. They swim over here on a coconut raft, and now they're supposed to run and do all the things on their own. And it's like they're happy to be here. Boxing becomes secondary. I think that's what happened with that heavyweight. Olander Solis. This guy was a talented fighter, and he just, as soon as he got here in the States, he was, went down the tubes. Kovalev, he says, "Thank you to the WBO. This was my first belt, and it means a lot to me. Thank you for this ring. Thank you for everybody who came here today. Thank you." There's a lot of thank yous going on in this final press conference. Thank you, Kathy Duva, his manager, Igis Kilamas, his manager, and who is his manager, and he wants to thank Muhammad Ali. He says, "I want to show this Saturday who I am. I would like to still be champion as long as possible. I didn't get all my goals in my career yet. My amateur career, didn't give me a lot of opportunities. I was hurt in the amateurs, and I had to try not to close the doors. Some of my dreams in boxing and my goals aren't finished. For my dreams, my goals, this Saturday is the next step. I cannot say who's the best. I try to be better with every day, every fight, and I build my career as I would like. If you do notice, Kovalev didn't thank HBO. And we were talking about that yesterday because he wouldn't let, HBO won't let him wear the ammo company that sponsors Kovalev, won't let him wear the name of the ammo company on his trunks because HBO doesn't want to have anything to do with guns and violence, which is so ironic. I pointed out yesterday that Sopranos, one of their best series, won all those awards. Their logo was a gun. If you remember, there was a gun in the logo. You know, they have very violent series, not just movies. You can't blame them for the movies, but the series. Like the one that's going on there now, True Detectives or whatever it is. So it's kind of ironic, right? Bibat Shumanov and BJ Flores, they had their press conference today as well. And yesterday, I'm sorry. And here's what they had to say. Shumanov said, I feel much better as a cruiserweight. There's no stress on my body like I had when I struggled to make 175 pounds. Now I just focus on getting better instead of making the weight. Flores has been a cruiserweight for a long time. Fighting an opponent like him is a good opportunity for me. If I pass the test, I want to unify the titles. Anytime I hear a fighter speak with some kind of doubt, makes you wonder, right? If they're saying, I'm going to go in there and try my best, that's a flag. If they say, the fight's going to happen and I'm thinking about retiring after this fight, that's a flag, Bibat Shumanov has got some flags. I wish we could turn back the clock and I could change my vote, although I don't think I could ever pick BJ Flores as a fighter. And he had this to say. He says, I feel like it's Saturday. I have a chance to, I feel like on Saturday, I have a chance to erase all the wrongs from my career. Something that's very motivating for me is my loss when I traveled over to Australia to fight Danny Green. At 200 pounds, I've never lost, and I'm not going to lose on Saturday. He never fought anybody good either, but that's beside the point. And I will tell you this, the Danny Green fight was pretty close. It was a close fight. There's no doubt about that. So anyway, I guess nobody has any thoughts on my thought of the day about Floyd Mayweather. Clearly the best pound-for-pound fighter out there today, but he's also one of the most boring, at least in my opinion. It all got started because of an email that said that he deserves to fight and pick an easy fight. Now, Andre Berto, with all due respect, and not that I'm saying I like this fight or anything, but Andre Berto does have knockout power. He is kind of awkward. I mean, he has no defense, and he's definitely looking like he's gotten worse and worse and worse over the last several years. But he does have punching power. Should he connect with Floyd, which, a lot of other fighters have tried and not been able to? You never know. You never know. So, anyway. We got a lot of stuff going on next week. Don't forget about that. As a matter of fact, my man Sal Senecola, who I'm donning his shirt today, he's going to be joining us next week and talking about some stuff. And hopefully we can get him to stop by more often than he has in the past. Somebody's got to tear him away from the pizza oven in order to do that.
Wake up. It's time for It's too early for a trivia question.
All right. I get to leave early, man. Today's It's Too Early for a Trivia question is a tough one. And it's being brought to us by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to the Baddest Man on the Planet. You got to get yourself a copy, man. Now, if you want a signed copy, you can do one of two things. Either email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com, or after the weekend, probably by Sunday morning or afternoon, there'll be a Buy It Now button under the book club section of BillyCBoxing.com, and you can get a signed copy there. If you don't care about a signed copy, well, then you're going to be able to go to Amazon, and I'll have the link up there too. But I believe by next week it'll be up on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com, and you'll also be able to get it in the bookstores shortly after that. Obviously, it's available online first, and then I believe we have to wait 90 days for some reason, and then it will be available on Kindle. So make sure you get a copy. Make sure you get 5 copies. You should have a copy for yourself. You should have a copy that I sign and save that one. You know, you never know. And the rest of the copies give away as gifts, because everyone should be reading this book, not just boxing fans. So I hope you buy the book. I know you're going to like it if you buy it. That I know. I know you're going to like it if you buy it. Today's It's Too Early for a Trivia Question. Question's a tough one. Even my man Coach, who's got a whole wing in his house full of prizes that he's won from the trivia questions here, is struggling with this one. I gave a big hint yesterday, and thanks to Henry Hascup, he makes them tough. And here's the question. Which 20th century world title holder had the fewest professional bouts? Which 20th century... It's like a tongue twister. Which 20th century world title holder had the fewest pro bouts? Now, remember what the 20th century is, right? That's like the 1900s, right? You know, we're in the 21st century now, okay? Just so you know. What 20th century world title holder had the fewest pro bouts? Yesterday, I gave a hint. This guy had 12. His total bouts were 12. It's a good hint. If you're the first one to email me his name correctly, Billy at Talkin' Boxing, TalkinBoxing.com, you'll win a choice of some great prizes. I actually was holding Coach's last prize because I thought he was going to go at it and get this one right too, and I was going to, stick them both in the same envelope. But I guess not. Coach is letting me down, So I figured he would get it. He knows all the tricks, how to get the answers right, So if you know the answer, email me, Billy at Talkin' Boxing, TalkinBoxing.com. Hey, listen, man, it is a short night. I thank you for that. And here's the bottom line. Enjoy the fights this weekend. We got a couple of good ones, one on HBO and one on NBC Sports Network. We will be talking about them. No, we're not doing a post-fight show, even though it is Kovalev, but it's not exactly a nail-biter of a fight, at least on paper. Hopefully it'll turn out to be one. But I'm actually looking forward to the co-main event on that card. But hey, don't forget, we got a lot of stuff going on next week. There's a pretty good schedule for next weekend, so we'll be chatting about that. We got our normal cast coming back and joining us next week, and then some. If you're a premium podcast subscriber, I hope you're enjoying all the extra stuff that we've been sending you, some of the classic things and the interviews. I just found another, hundreds of interviews that we've done over the last 12 years. So a lot of good stuff is going to be coming your way. So if you want to become a premium podcast subscriber and support this show, you can visit the website, www.BillyCBoxing.com, and click the yellow subscribe button. It's only $15 for the year, and you help us out. And, don't forget this either. That was kind of corny, huh? Hey, man, enjoy the fights this weekend, and don't forget to tune in Monday evening, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.